This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
And this is the latest edition of Tigers Talk. I am your host, Vito Geronimo, Chirco, I like to say. And I got a special guest with me this week, and former Detroit Tiger, Dmitri Meathook Young. Dmitri, how are you doing, man?
Well, it's a little early out here in California, but I'm an early riser, so I'm fine. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, and thanks for joining me this early for you. Pacific time for you, Eastern time here for me in Michigan. But to start off with this, Meathook. I love the nickname, man. What's the origin of that nickname, Meathook?
Well, the origin goes back to 1999, and Carl Ravitch from ESPN, they just started doing Baseball Tonight, and he was one of the hosts, and it just popped out of his mouth. Dmitri, he just said Meathook, Dmitri Young, and Dmitri, the origin of the name, Meathook. You know, I was a big beefy son of a gun. I'm 235 now upon retirement. I've done the opposite of what people do upon retiring. You know, I lost a gang of weight, and we'll talk about that later. But it came from Carl Ravitch, and the name stuck because before then, teammates like Aaron Boone and Pokey Reese called me D-Train. But once they heard the Meathook, they were like, yeah, that works. And, you know, to this day, I brand myself. I have hats and shirts and T-shirts and stuff that had the Meathook. Of course, I'm wearing a California hat, and I'm wearing a Super Friends T-shirt because I wasn't expecting to be here. I was expecting to be at home. But I was up here in San Luis Obispo fishing. And
you love fishing. Is that true then, too? One of your hobbies then, Meathook.
Yeah, one of my new hobbies over the last 3 years since 2017. I had a health scare. I had ketoacidosis. And I was hospitalized for a few days, and I was like, man, I need to change my diet. You know, I need to start eating more fish. And so I had friends. See, I'm on the coastline of California here, so there's a lot of saltwater fishing that goes on out here, and I knew nothing about it. And I have a friend named Brian Barber who does Operation Mission Fish, which is a nonprofit that helps the people that suffer from PTSD that are in the military, because he was a Marines officer, and get them out on the boats to get that therapy, going out on the boat, feeling the air, being, you know, catching fish. You know, you're just doing something other than, you know, suffering. And, you know, he got me out on the boat, and I had no idea what I was doing. When I say no idea, I didn't know how to cast. And this one you just drop. I didn't know how to drop, put my thumb on the spool, you know. I was, you know, no slack in the line. And, I mean, putting the bait on, it took me 8 times. Like, once I got hooked, it took me 8 separate times before I just finally just said, okay, I got it. Just grab the bait, because I was like, ugh, it's all nasty and stuff. And looking at me, you wouldn't think that I wouldn't want to put my hands on nasty little sardines and stuff. But, yes, I did. And once I did that, you know, I just started growing, and it became a hobby because, you know, upon retiring, you know, I did a little coaching in the Frontier League with the Oakland County Cruisers. That was up in Michigan. We played in 2010. We probably played about 15 home games that year. The owner of the team, it was a real crap show. But he wound up selling all the teams because we were supposed to have a field built up near Pontiac. So we played the first 9 games at Eastern Michigan University. And then the last 2 series, the last 6 games, we played way out in Oakland University.
Okay, yeah.
But we sold off pretty much all the home games because it was a 96-game season. We were pretty much a barnstorming team. We would go city to city and play. We'll go up to Traverse City. We'll go to Washington, Pennsylvania. You know, we'll be up in the Chicago area with the 2 teams there. down in St. Louis. Where's the what was that? Bloomington. Was it Bloomington, Illinois? The college.
Bloomington, Indiana,
Town.
right?
No, Illinois. Illinois State's there, and they
Okay.
they had a team there, the Colonels. What was the name of that team? I cannot remember the name of the team, but it was surrounded by cornfield. Everything they sold there had something to do with corn, and the corn was fantastic, by the way. And then after that, I started losing weight, and then I went to try and make a comeback in Venezuela and played on Maglio Ordonez's team, the Caribes. And then, I just didn't feel the love to go play again. I had a couple of tryouts, and it wasn't what I wanted to hear at the time. So then I retired, sold the car collection, started up my foundation, that Dmitri D. Young Foundation, that I serve as a bridge between kids that can play but can't pay, and opportunity to go to camps and get on these travel ball teams that are ultra expensive. You know how that is. But and then been involved with Major League Baseball, the Players Association, with amateur baseball, doing the Breakthrough Series, which is a showcase for young Black players to, show off their skills and stuff, because how the climate is today. Well, that's how it is with the dwindling numbers of less than 8% of Black players that are in the game. So we had showcases at Cincinnati at the Urban Youth Academy, at the hub here in Compton, California, Kansas City, Vero Beach. And we also have the Elite Development Invitational, which now is called the Hank Aaron Invitational, which is a 2-week camp. The first camp are incoming eighth grader, incoming freshman, and then the second week, incoming sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And it's a week-long camp, and all the coaches are former Black Major League Baseball players. So you have guys like Marquise Grissom, you have Junior Spivey, you have Pat Mahomes. And yes, he brought Patrick Mahomes to the Kansas City Breakthrough Series. And you know what? Perfect person to be the face of the NFL. And guess what? In the end, just like we talk about Mike Trout's contract, he's going to be underpaid. But back to the story. I've been doing that and doing a little broadcasting, doing the RBI World Series and doing the PG 14U All-American Select Festival. I coach at Oaks Christian High School out here with Royce Clayton and former Tiger Jeff Weaver, and doing the podcast. I feel like I'm leaving something out. I had 3 kids when I was in Detroit. They're all adults now. My oldest, Owen, is 23. My son, Damon, just turned 21, and my daughter, Layla, is 18 and graduated high school this year, and I didn't get to go to her graduation because of that doggone pandemic.
You look good, man, though. You look slim. I mean, California suits you well, and you're staying busy. You're vibrant, positive, lively, doing a bunch of stuff and in the community and helping out the youth, and I love that about you, man. I really do, and I want to get into your career now really quick. And you being a first-rounder, the St. Louis Cardinals, what was that like for you, man, being a young guy drafted in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft?
I'm going to go a little bit back to I was one of the rare people that played 6 years of varsity baseball. When I was living in Montgomery, Alabama, my dad was stationed there. My dad was an F-14 pilot in the Navy. He was an officer, and we moved all over the place. And so baseball became my love. And I really started playing in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And my dad is a Navy man. He's anybody that know military people, they're very much in order, discipline, focus, and you'll be out there until you get it right. If that means you're out there for 30 minutes, well, that'll never happen. But if you're out there for a couple of hours and everything is good, yeah, we'll be done. But if there's anything that goes on, it irons it out until it's precision. And let me tell you, that it worked out, but it also has its shortcomings with that, because it took away from other things that you want to do. So the one thing I would tell parents is let the kids have hobbies, have other interests, because you'll love the game a lot more. instead of going away from it because that's all you see and that's all you do. But from there, we moved to Montgomery, Alabama, and I went to Alabama Christian Academy, and my dad talked to the school about, what if my kid can play varsity? And they said, well, because it was connected 7th through 12th grade and wasn't heavily populated. And so the coach was like, yeah, if he can play, there's no problem. Well, my 7th grade year, I hit 564. I was 31 for 55. And I was just talking to my dad about this recently, and he was like, yeah, they was like, no, they're not giving the player of the year to a 7th grader. We had all these guys that played 2-3 years of varsity already, and my numbers were clearly the best. But I had no problem with it. I was like, I have that as a 7th grader. Can't take that away. And then I kind of slumped my 8th grade year there. I only hit like 425. 425 there. And then my dad's orders were to move to California. And it came out here, and it was between 2 schools. It was between Channel Islands, and that was the school that Terry Pendleton, former MVP, he went to, and Jacob Cruz, former big leaguer. And we actually would have been playing together for 4 years because we both graduated in 91, and he played on that team as a freshman as well. But I went to Rio Mesa, and that was probably, to me, the right choice, because when I got there, it was a melting pot. You had all kind of people on the team. You had blacks, you had whites, you had Hispanics. It was like you had Asians. You had a mixture on the team. And coming from the South, black, white, and so I've always moved around, so I always was able to adapt because baseball is the love. And so when I tried out for the team, the coach already said that the team was already set because we moved in halfway. This was like end of January, early February, right before the start of the season. And let me tell you, I was nervous because I hadn't played in like 6 months because I had an argument with my dad. I don't want to play anymore. And so as we drove to California, it was 2 cars. My mom, my baby sister, Deanne, she was like 6 months at the time. My other sister, Deetra, she's 6 years behind me, and then a 2-year-old Delman. And then in the Volkswagen Rabbit, and we're driving from Montgomery, Alabama to California. And it's me and my dad. My dad is just talking baseball the entire time. And then when we had to stop and fill up, I'm in the parking lot swinging a bat until it was time for us to get back on the road. And that was usually around 30 minutes because my mom had to feed a 6-month-old Deanne, a 2-year-old Delman, and Detroit was 8. So I was 14. All the way to California, and then we get to the destination, and then as soon as we got there, unloaded the car, and we went right to the school. I had on blue sweats and a red T-shirt. And I was nervous as God knows what. The coach, Richard Duran, awesome guy. He said basically to my dad, the team's already set, and I'm coming in like a giant. And the players on the team thought that I was the coach's like friend or whatever, not a freshman in high school. And so I get up there and start hitting, and well, I didn't hit a thing like the first 5-6 swings. I was nervous, and then the coach just came and talked to me. He was like, hey, don't worry about it. You just see the ball, hit the ball. You know what you're doing up there. And then I proceeded on hitting like 8 balls out after that. And 2 days later, and I was an infielder my entire life. And, you have juniors and seniors, but there was a spot that was in the outfield, in left field. And he said, you ever play the outfield? And I was like, no, but I can learn. And needless to say, I won all the awards my freshman year. I was freshman state player of the year, sophomore, junior, and senior state player of the year. And then going into my senior year, my dad had me start. Actually, we used that as a challenge because my dad tried to have me switch hit when I was 10 years old. We did it for like 6 months, and people taught my dad out having me switch hit due to the fact that I was a dominant hitter on the right side. So what I would do is whenever I go sour on the right side in the cages, I would switch to the left side and mimic the right side and basically fix the problem. I'll correct myself. And so my dad said to me right before we went to the area code games, and he was like, "Why don't you go up there and switch hit?" And like Forrest Gump, I go, "Okay." And I had immediate success. And what I mean by that was my first at bat, I scorched the ball, one hop the wall in left center for a double. And I was like, "Oh, it's on now." And let me tell you, it wasn't an easy thing to do because once you start switch hitting, it's like, okay, what pitch do I like? Do I know how to have back control, hit the ball the other way, pull? Can I recognize pitchers on that? How are the pitchers going to try and attack? I mean, there's so many things that go on with hitting that when a switch hitter starts to switch hit, you have no idea. Not to mention you have to swing probably 3 times as much as you do on the right side because it's about that muscle memory where your natural side, you've been doing that from the start, whereas the left side, it's like, so what I teach my students is big brother, little brother. Little brother has to be taken care of. So that's how I identify the left side. So I started doing that. And then my senior year, I had a career high 11 home runs. And I had 2 of them on the left side. I would bat on the left side the first couple of at-bats. And then I get on the right side and just take over the game. And so scouts would come to the game and ask Coach Duran, when is Dmitri going to hit right-handed? And he was like, he got 2 more at-bats on this side. The scouts will stay, and then I get on the right side. Boom! They write what they need to write, and then they're gone. And so I had the spotlight on me, always being an advanced player, mature body. And so I was the number 1 ranked player in high school going into my senior year, and then I lost the title to this guy named Brian Taylor, who was the number 1 pick for the Yankees. He was 6'6", left-handed brother out of North Carolina, threw about 98. I mean, this kid was just incredible. At that time, he signed for the highest deal for a baseball player in the draft. It was 1.55. Yeah, I think second rounders, third rounders get that nowadays, but gotta love it.
Hey, how big were you as a freshman then? You said you were a big guy already going into your freshman year of high school.
6 feet, 225.
Only 6 feet and 225. And look at that. You already had the size and mature body build and stature. And you said you started hitting the long ball, you said as a senior, right? You hit the 11 long balls then?
Well, that was my career high. My freshman year, I had 7. And I hit 420. My sophomore year, I hit 500 and had 6 homers. My junior year, I only had 5 homers. However, I was 50 for 85. That was a 588 batting average. I was 1 hit away. If I would have gone 51 for 85, I would have had a 600 average. But that wasn't meant to be. And I was runner-up that year for Player of the Year. A friend of mine won Player of the Year as a senior and the number 3 pick overall in the 1990 draft, Mike Lieberthal.
Okay.
And yeah, he lived about 20 minutes south of Camarillo and Westlake. And we played with each other ever since we moved to California. And yeah, he was the number 3 pick. And what he did as I don't know if anybody else has done this, but he hit for the cycle in home runs. Hit a solo shot in the game, then hit a 2-run homer, a 3-run homer, and topped it off with a grand slam in 1 game.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever heard of that from anybody else. I mean, I've never heard of that from anybody. That's pretty astounding right there. Now, for you, what did you know actually, Dmitri, that you were good enough to play at the major league level?
You know what? I always knew it, but like I mentioned earlier about being in a military family, strict and things like that. So when I got drafted, I could have really given 2 craps about, at that time, getting to the big leagues. It was like, yeah, I'm good, whatever. And body wasn't in shape, wasn't working out, not putting my potential in. And that 91 draft was a pretty good draft. You had Cliff Floyd was in that draft. Sean Green was in that draft. Trying to think of some other big names. Manny Ramirez was in that draft. Pokey Reese, my boy, was in that draft. there was a lot of people, and Benji Gill was the first high school guy to get to the big leagues. He was actually the first person from the '91 draft. He was the first rounder shortstop with the Texas Rangers, and he got up there. And I played against these guys, and when you get drafted before these guys, you're better. And yeah, it was like, okay, and I start. And when you are blaming others instead of looking in the mirror, you're just prolonging the inevitable. It's like, you're not recognizing anything. And once I played in Mexico, I got in a little trouble going in the stands for being called an effing N-word in Wichita. And I'll tell you this story. This was in 1995. This is probably the low point in the minor leagues for me because, watching people around me getting called up to AAA and then to the big leagues and seeing guys that I played with in high school in the big leagues. We were playing in Wichita, and Wichita has a turf infield, grass outfield at the time. It's all turf now. But in the locker rooms was down the left field line. Our dugout was on the first base side. And so playing our game, and we had two other black guys hitting in front of me. They kept calling them pork chop, hey, pork chop. I get up there, hey, pork chop. And other guys were in the line, like Joe McEwen, they kept calling him, hey, it's your bedtime. You shouldn't be hitting right now. But they were drinking, getting belligerent, and by the time the game was over, the teammate of mine and myself, we was talking to some females that we met earlier in the road trip. This is our last game, so we're leaving. And in AA, you're there for like 5-6 days. And so as we're leaving, those guys were still behind home plate drinking. They're like, hey, pork chop, hey, get out of here, you bleep, bleep. And I just looked over, and my buddy was like, man, forget them people, forget it. I was like, no, I gotta go speak on this one. So I went up there. I said, what did you say? And the dude said, F you. By the time you came out, I dropped him with a left hook and fell on top of him. And 3 other guys were on top of me, hitting me. I didn't feel a thing because I was smashing that dude's head in, and I saw red for the first time. And if anybody knows if you see red, that's rage. That's something that's dangerous. But that's what I felt by being called out a name, one, for nothing I did. And so everything got separated because my buddy had one of my bats and hit the biggest one in the small of the back. And so everything separated, and the cops came, and we weren't in trouble. Those guys got in trouble. They were Marines that were out of uniform, and they could have been court-martialed. And I come from a military family, and, it just kind of, it kind of hurt that, military people would do that. And so I got suspended for 20 games. And so I was able to travel with the team, but I would have to sit in the stands during the game. And when we went to other places, and every place has a heckler in AA. And so they came over and we talked, and they was like, oh my God, they said that, we like getting, they'll have all the fat jokes and stuff like that. But when they said we'll never cross the line, and we're playing like in Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, Louisiana, Little Rock, Arkansas. And, those people that say those things, they was like, they're wrong for it. We like to get under people's skin and stuff like that. And, that was, the racial stuff that I had to deal with. And, it makes you grow. And then when I went, after the suspension was over, I got called up to AAA, and they were in the playoffs. And this is the Louisville Redbirds. And I helped them win a championship for the American Association. And then the following year, and I'm skipping, they had me go play down in Mexico, and I played at Hermosillo. And I wound up getting an injury halfway in the season. I missed about 8 games with my shoulder. And I was hitting 276, nothing spectacular. And it was like, I said, I had to look in the mirror and have that moment. Like, now, if you are going to play baseball, you need to get serious. You need to get nasty, because you ain't doing, pardon my language, you ain't doing shit. And from that point, My average went up 80 points, won the batting title there, went to spring training in shape, and opened up some eyes because it was under a new regime with Tony La Russa coming in, and went to AAA, wound up winning the batting title there, and then got to the big leagues. And then I was like, you know what? I finally made it. But it ain't about making it. It's about staying. And in 97, it was like, I felt like I was trying to play to impress Tony La Russa as opposed to playing my game. So guess what happened? I became a Cincinnati Red.
Now you did. And you really, took off then, right? You kind of hit
Yes.
a part of your career where you really were successful and hitting for average, hitting for some power. You were like a pure hitter from what I remember in your stats, and especially when you got to Cincinnati once again. So can you talk about that, about what made the difference for you once you joined the Cincinnati Reds?
One, being Ken Griffey Sr., my hitting coach.
Beautiful. Can't beat that, right?
Oh, my God. Oh, everybody's dream when you get to the big leagues is to be the best that you can be. But when you have the best player's dad who taught him everything that he knows as the coach, I'm like, man, he's going to teach me how to hit like Ken Griffey Jr.
So, you were excited for that, man, right?
Yeah, until our first encounter. He was like, yes, I'm Ken Griffey Sr. How you doing? You can call me Senior. Let me tell you right now, I'm not going to teach anybody how to hit like Ken Griffey Jr. And I was like, no, I'm going to teach you how to hit like Dmitri Young. Oh, okay. And he was all about approach. The approach that you go up there to the plate with is how you're going to do your damage, as opposed to worrying about your mechanics, because the mental control the mechanics. And that's what I teach my students now. But I used to get in there, and if I wouldn't hit a couple right, I get frustrated and stuff. He's like, hey, calm down. It's batting practice, not pissed off practice. And then if you get jammed in the cage, he likes to take up a collection. Like, hey, every time you don't hit it on the big part of the bat, you're gonna have to pay for my computer. Not computer, but computer. Like, he was very humorous. And it made hitting it brought out the best in me. So I hit 300 all 4 years in Cincinnati because of that. The captain, Barry Larkin. They come no better when it comes to silent leadership, in a sense of he didn't have to say much, but when he did, he made it count. And the first few days, when you get traded from one place to another, you kind of have scars of, what went wrong with the other team. And so, I was like all serious and, didn't look like I was enjoying myself. And I knew a lot of the players on the Reds team due to playing in AAA against them, and like Pokey Reese being one of them. And so Larkin came over there and talked to me. And he was like, hey, I heard that you're a good guy. And I heard that you like to have fun and stuff. And he said, look around right now. And we're all on the field. I swear it looked like a barbecue out there. Everybody laughing and having a good time, but they're getting their work in. And he said, I don't know how it was done over there in St. Louis, but we have fun over here. And he said, if you don't start smiling and having a good time like you're a part of this team, I'm gonna be in your wallet every day. And that was like $155,000 for the minimum at the time. I wasn't making any money and just got married and had a newborn. I started smiling and having a good time, and that was the birth of the Meathook before the Meathook name.
How big of a mental component is baseball and being a hitter and going through your struggles at the plate, right? You can have an 0 for 3 day, have to bounce back the following day, and you might end up going 2 for 3 or 2 for 4, right? So you're about the mental aptitude, right, that's necessary. How big was that for you during your major league career?
It was everything that you needed as a hitter to be able to survive. It's about survival up there in the big leagues, to survive. You got people that are getting traded over to the team. Like the day before opening day in 1998, I was already competing with Eduardo Perez at first base. And who did they have in the outfield? John Nunnally, Chris Steins, and Reggie Sanders was a mainstay. So left field and center field were up for grabs as well. And so it was basically the best man wins. And because I played multiple positions, you know, it was like cool. And I was a switch hitter, so left-hander, I bat right-handed. Right-handed, I bat left-handed. So I was finding my way to stay in. And when they traded for Sean Casey right before opening day, it was just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And it was like, oh yeah, I could play multiple positions. And so I found my way in the lineup and I stayed. And it was someday I'll play a couple of days at first base, give Sean Casey some time off. I'll go to left field and play, you know, 3 or 4 days. And then if Reggie Sanders needed it, I'll go to right field. And then in 2001, Bob Boone became the manager instead of Jack McKeon. And Aaron Boone broke his thumb. He was like, you played third base? I said, I hadn't played in 8 years, but yeah. But back to your question about the mental part of it, you got to have that attitude that you're the man. You know, it's about survival. It's about thinking positive, because thinking negative is going to give you negative results. Like you go up there facing Randy Johnson, you thinking about, oh my God, he got this good fastball and he got this nasty slider. I don't know if I can hit that. Does that sound like I can hit that with that thought process?
No way.
No, so it was about changing your frame of mind, knowing how good you are, and enjoying yourself while you're there. A lot of people get called up to the big leagues and they don't enjoy it. They looked all panicky, and you'll see guys that are there and then they're gone. And like, what happened to that guy? What happened to this guy? You know, you can say performance, but sometimes when you get up there to the big leagues, you get stage fright for real. You know, it's like all of a sudden it's like, all right, you made it. Now what are you going to do? And Willie McGee told me this. He was like, this was in 96. We was in a pennant race. And he goes, do what you did that got you here. That's what we need out of you. We don't need you to try and impress anybody and stuff like that. We need you to do what you did that got you here. And so I used to pass that message on to the guys that get called up for the first time. And, you know, it gives them that little mental, like,
And you ease the tension, right? You ease the tension that way too. And that's such a big component in having fun. And you started having fun now with the Reds. But how do you get others in the youth that you teach now to have fun and to calm their nerves and just have fun with it overall wise, when you know what you went through, the anxiety and all the pressure, man, and all the pressure, extra pressure you put on yourself as well?
Let's just say that you're my student and you come over to the Meathook's hidden studio, and it's at my dad's house in Camarillo. I live right across the street from him. And so when you come over, first of all, you're going to be nervous. You know, it's like, okay, I'm coming to get a lesson. And you're coming with, let's say you're a younger kid and you're coming with your parents or you're coming with your dad. First thing I do is I talk to y'all together and I explain to both of y'all that this is your project. We're doing it together. And what I need from dad is silence. Because what happens, what do kids normally do? They'll swing and they'll look at their parents. They look for that approval. And the dad is usually throwing out instructions and stuff. And it's like, you're taking a test right now when you're in the batter's box. So you can't be getting all this other stuff going on. You got to trust everything that you did from batting practice on to the game to be able to perform. So I'm building trust with the kid and letting them know that, hey, I'm on your side here, but I get them on my side. So then I'm able to teach. And I teach confidence. You know, you got to have confidence when you go up there to the plate. You got to be thinking positive. You going up there to the plate like, I don't know if I can hit him. Oh, he got a college scholarship, or he has a good fastball. You put negative thoughts in your head. I mentioned earlier, that's what's going to happen. You're going to strike out. You're going to pop up. You're not going to have success. You got to go up there with a thought process of, yeah, he's going to groove that pitch right there in my zone. And, that right fielder looked like he had a place. Like, okay, I'm going to just drive it over his head real quick, and I'll be at third base. Or he throw that pitch right there with that slop. Yeah, you can put it on the board. See, when you think positive, you're gonna be ready to hit. And, of course, I teach the nuances of, contact points and looking for your pitch to hit and laying off junk during batting practice. And you practice all of these things. And I also have them, there's a lot of kids like this, what we call the cage swing. You get in the cage and you're not putting everything on the swing. It looks nice. The ball comes off the bat good, but it's not a game swing. And you hear people, I'm going to turn it on in the game. No, you're going to turn it on right now. We're going to practice turning it on now. So when you turn it on in the game, it's not a foreign thing that you're doing. It's like, it's a natural process. So I get into the psyche and then I show them too. You know, you got to demonstrate to the kids what you're trying to preach. And then when they see me do it, and I'm clean shaven right now, but usually but when the pandemic started, I was looking like I was living in a cave. And so, you know, when they get past the rough exterior and then they see me hit, and I was like, you gonna let this old man out hit you? Wham, wham. And the kids are looking at me and all like, oh, yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. Even though I've been doing it my entire life. I mean, it's like jumping on a bike. So with the kids, I make it fun. It has to be fun. Like when they're done hitting, their chest is all puffed out, and the parents are like, "Oh my God, thank you! I can't believe how fast." It's like I grew up in this. I know the ins and outs of hitting. You know, not only seeing it and being around the best in the business, I was one of the best in the business, but also doing and being able to convey that to the next generation. And because I like watching baseball now, and I would like to see in the future some of the kids that I interacted with on TV.
And you have to be loose. You have to let it all hang out, and you truly did. And I want to jump to your time with the Tigers now, parts of 5 seasons from 02 to 06, since this is Tigers talk. And I watched some bad Tigers baseball. I got to admit to you, I know you were part of a lot of losing clubs there with Detroit. But my family and I would attend the games at Comerica Park, roam freely, and we loved watching you specifically because of your effort level, the amount of fun you had running around the base pass, man. And I still remember you losing your helmet, going to second base or trying to get to third to extend it to a triple. You would lose your helmet, man. And I loved watching that out of you, the energy and fun that you exuded as a player day in, day out. And can you just reflect a little bit upon your time in the Motor City?
Well, by the time I was traded from Cincinnati to Detroit, that gave me an opportunity to be a star. You know, in Cincinnati, you know, we had a bunch of players there, and we had a couple of people that was expendable, me being one and Pokey Reese being the other. But wound up going to Detroit, and you know, it was different at the beginning as far as, you know, what I've seen in the locker rooms in the past with the Cardinals and with the Reds. But I saw a lot of potential at the same time. And once 03 came and went, because in 02, I was hurt half the year. I had hernia surgery and, you know, missed out with that one. But coming back in 2003, and the president of the team, Mike Ilitch, was like, hey, we're not putting any money into the team until we start winning. Hey, we showed him. We lost 119 games. But
yes,
you know
sir.
what? But you know what? That team, you know, the core of that team wound up being on the 06 team. So they experienced the absolute worst to going to the absolute best. And with saying that, that was like my breakout year, because I signed an extension when I came over and I got hurt. And so it was like a prove it year to me, you know. And yeah, we was on the team. We kind of looked at it like, oh, dang, we suck. But if you look at that roster, a lot of those guys should have been in Double-A. You know, taking nothing against like Jeremy Bonderman or guys like that. Jeremy Bonderman was 19 years old, but you know what? He showed the most fire in spring training that year. And it was like, we got to keep this kid. Let him take his bumps and bruises in the big leagues. And it paid off because he was a fiery kid. And, you know, what better place? Because it wasn't like his fastball was going to get any faster. His breaking ball, you know, you learn all the control stuff as you mature. And it was like, we're going to let him mature in the big leagues. And it paid off for him. And then you get Curtis Granderson coming up, and he's the ambassador. He's the ambassador of baseball. You know, Sean Casey's the mayor. Curtis Granderson is the ambassador. and watching the team transform, getting pieces to the puzzle that came in, and the team started getting some real culture. And that's what was lacking with the Tigers beforehand. It was just a bunch of guys going out there playing and doing whatever, no real effort to try and win. And in 06, I put myself in a situation where I had to watch the team that I helped build go to the World Series, but I was proud to be on a team that, you know what, watching that transformation was cool. So when I got my life turned around, when I got signed by the Nationals in 07, that was my chance to, not only make a comeback, but also show my love for the game again, because I lost the love for the game. Off the field circumstances took that away from me. But when I went over to the Nationals, Jim Bowden was the GM there, and he was the GM in Cincinnati. And he's like, you know what? Bad things happen to good people. Show me that you're good people, and bad things just happen to you. And he gave me the platform to go out there, and I swear it was Cincinnati East in D.C. Had Bob Boone, he was part of the player development. Had Jose Cardinal over there. There were certain players that were over there, and being an accelerated camp was like, wasn't big league camp. They had like the prospects that weren't on the 40-man roster yet that they had high hopes for. Ian Desmond was there. John Lannon was there. Chris Marrero. Tony Batista was there. We had about like 60 guys there, and they remembered Dmitri the Meathook, not the crap that happened to me in 06. They wanted to know, hey, how was it facing Pedro Martinez? Or how was it playing in this stadium? And I started growing the love back for the game. And the one name that I left out that I shouldn't have left out, should have been the first name, was Lenny Harris, the pinch hit king, all time. He was, if you call me Rocky, he was what was his trainer name? Mickey? Yeah. He was like, come on, Big D, get your big ass out. Come on. Get your ass here at 6 o'clock. We're gonna get in shape. We're gonna get you to the big leagues. We getting back there. So every morning I'm getting there, and I was a heavy boy back then, doing the exercises on the treadmill and hitting me ground balls. And this is all before 8 a.m. I'm in a cage hitting, doing sprints. I mean, I'm like drenched every single day to get back to the big leagues. And then Jim Bowden, this was towards the end of spring training. He had me go to the game against the Dodgers, and I went 2 for 3. I had a opposite field home run and a bases loaded hit up the middle, drove in 3 runs. And then I sent me back down. I hit another home run, and then he called me back up, and the 2 people that was competing for first base, one wound up retiring and the other one went to AAA, and I wound up winning the job with the Nationals. And then everything came full circle. Made the All-Star team, got an extension, and it's like, when you put your mind to it, when you hit rock bottom, are you going to stay there? You're going to find a way out. And wound up surrounding myself with good people and like the friends. When you go through crap, you find out who your true friends are. And to this day, I still hang out with those people. And that was the reason why I moved back to California.
And how much did getting that second chance in Washington mean to you?
It meant everything, because I felt like there was a lot out there, circumstances put me in this position. I was like, the only way to get out of it is, you got to go through it. You got to get that opportunity. And there weren't any coming to me. And Jim Bowden, bless his soul, gave me that opportunity. And because my brother Delman was like, man, you still got plenty of tank. Because I was thinking about, just because I had an RV and I was just going to be driving around the country. And he's like, no, go and play. Go finish this off. That's what happened.
And back to the Tigers really quick. When you were on those losing clubs from 02 through 05, what was the culture like in that Tigers clubhouse?
You know what? The culture started building, because we started getting different people in. We got Rondell White. We got Pudge Rodriguez. Fernando Vina came in. Carlos Guillen. Maglio. We started getting attractive people coming over. And so after that, you know, we started getting Justin Verlander, Joel Zumaya getting called up, Curtis Granderson, you know, and Brandon Inge became a star. Marcus Thames, you know, we were good. And once we took out Trammell, and I loved Alan Trammell as a manager. And you bring in Jim Leyland, and Jim Leyland knows how to win and knows how to get the best out of players. That's when everything started happening.
And what did you learn from Alan Trammell? Because I didn't want to get to that, so I love how you segued into that already for me. But speaking of the Tigers, great. I mean, all-time legendary shortstop for the Tigers. And then a manager, and now a Hall of Famer. Finally, right? It took a long enough time for him to get into Cooperstown. But yeah, how about learning from him with him as your skipper there in Detroit?
Alan Trammell had the best attitude that you would want to have out of a manager. Always smiling, jipper. And, I mean, he's a gamer. I mean, he's a gamer. He's a lifer. And it was cool also having Lance Parrish as one of the coaches. You had a little of that nostalgia, 84 Tigers. You had Kirk Gibson there. Lou Whitaker should have been on that coaching staff. I mean, Lou Whitaker is just awesome. I would have loved to have him as a coach as well. But having that culture that you know, it wasn't necessarily what Jim Leyland brought to the table, but when you start getting into the history of the team and okay, I want to perform because this is a storied organization. And you had my man Willie Horton that was around all the time. I love me some Willie Horton. You had Al Kaline that was around all the time. And when you have history that's around and they talk about the times when they played and you hear about the history, you know, I was a big baseball historian, the baseball card collection and all that stuff. But, you know, knowing the history of the game, and that's how it was for me. When I was with the Cardinals, you had Bob Gibson, Stan the Man Musial, Lou Brock, and I played with Ozzie Smith. And so I was like, wow. And then Cincinnati had Johnny Bench, you had Joe Morgan, you had Dave Concepcion, and I mean, you had the Big Red Machine and stuff. And then you come over to the Tigers, and then you have the two legends with Al Kaline, Willie Horton, and then you had the 84 Tigers. And I was always into that because I grew up a baseball fan before, you know, being a baseball player. So it was all about, you know, living my dream and being around that. So I always wanted to win for the whole legacy part of it.
And Mr. Tiger passed away earlier this year. What did you learn from him while with the Tigers?
He was another guy that had fun. Him and Willie, you know, when it's time to handle business, handle business. Other than that, hey, you have your life, you have other things that are going on. Enjoy that as well. But when it's time to put on the uniform and beat up the other team, put on the uniform and beat up the other team.
So you had so many different guys, Tigers legends to learn from. And then the club ended up dismissing Trammell, moving on from him to Jim Leyland in 06. Do you think that 06 club would have been as good without Jim Leyland?
Well, that's kind of hard to say because we brought in, well, that was when Justin Verlander was a rookie and Joe Zumaya came out of nowhere. Well, he didn't come out of nowhere. We knew about him in the minor leagues throwing 1,000 miles an hour. You know, the emergence of some of the players that really didn't perform, you know, up to that point, you know, stepping up and having career years. Kenny Rogers.
The gambler. Really yes. Good at 40-something, 40-plus years old, right?
Yes. And, I mean, it was just like the perfect storm.
And you being this baseball historian, when you look at baseball and how it's played today, and when you were playing, how different do you think it really is, Dmitri?
Ooh, you talking about with the analytics and stuff now?
And with all that, because like I'll bring up, like in 03, you were the best Tigers player war-wise too. And I think just looking at the stats, clear cut across the board, you were as well. But now people use the analytics, use WAR, wins above replacement, that would be. And once again, you were the highest producing WAR guy on that 03 Tiger squad. So it does mean something. And in the Hall of Fame conversation for a lot of guys, it helps you out. And we thought it would have helped out Lou Whitaker, a guy like that more by now, right? With the 70-plus WAR as well.
It will eventually with Lou Whitaker because people are putting up a fight and they're standing up for Lou Whitaker calls. I am one of them because when you do look at the new stats that they're talking about with the analytics, he more than qualifies.
Absolutely.
He more than qualifies. So it's like, okay, he was now, and now that you have Trammell in and you have Jack Morris in, that's going to give him more of a leg to stand on. So the next go around in a couple of years, when it's his turn to come up, he's definitely going to be in the forefront.
So what do you think of these new stats then? Do you like them? Do you look into them when you're evaluating a player yourself?
It's a little bit of both. I'm old school, but I do like the numbers and stuff to get a gauge on what kind of player you're getting. Because what's going on now is a influx of analytics only versus the eye test. And when I'm teaching hitting, a lot of these kids, they want launch angle. I want launch angle because that's what they
exit velo, right? There's new stats like that to keep track of.
Well, the exit velo came because of the scouts, getting the times on the pitcher and they're getting another reading that's a lot harder than was being pitched and it was coming off the bat. So now not now, but they started doing that when they started doing that. And I like that because you can gauge on how we was talking earlier about how loose you are as a hitter and how relaxed and how everything flows. That's how you can gauge that. And then with launch angles is based on where you make contact and what the ball does. But what people are teaching teaching kids to dip and collapse the backside and swing straight up and try and hit home runs early as opposed to trying to get hits in games. If you stay level through the ball, if you're staying level, you actually have a slight uppercut. And so the ball is coming at a downward plane. You're going to meet it, and the ball is going to take off like a jet airplane as opposed to a pop-up. So,
and then how about a line drive? I mean, up the middle approach. I mean, is that still important? You were kind of getting at that as well, and I think that's still vital for hitters nowadays.
It's definitely. You need a base to start from. And when you tell a kid, okay, we want a line drive swing, stay through the ball, it sounds boring. But when you do that, and I tell them, line drive swing with your swing. However hard swing you swing, that's what you put on the swing. And so when he swings, he has that natural lift and the ball is just taking off like a jet airplane and it's going over the fence by miles. And it's like, is this working for you or is that working for you? And they're like, oh, this is working for me. And because people are talking about it, and then we go back to the history of baseball and well, you was like 5 years old during that home run chase with McGuire and Sosa.
In '98. Yeah, really dating me there, Dmitri. Really dating me, man. Come on.
Hey, I was actually in the outfield, so I was watching it. So when I was watching the documentary on ESPN with Sosa and McGuire, and then watching on major MLB Network with Ken Griffey Jr., watching their swings, they weren't dipping or anything. They were just going through the ball, and the ball was just going. It was going to tomorrow. It was like gone. I was like, wow. And looking at the swing, so it's like I asked the kids, so y'all watch that McGuire? Yeah. It's amazing how they hit home runs. Did you see how they hit it? Did it look like they was trying to hit the ball? No, they was just hitting through the ball, and the ball. Exactly. That's what we're trying to teach. And so it's like once I teach them and be able to trust the process, when they trust the process and see what happened when they go to their games or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, I hit a ball. I thought I swung down and it went over the shortstop's head. It went over the left fielder's head. It went over the fence for a home run. Oh my God, coach, thank you very much. I was like, no, you did the work. I just helped you out a little bit. Real coaches don't take credit.
So you don't yourself then. And it's about the player, right? Seeing the ball, hitting the ball as simplistically as that. Here, a lot of coaches, a lot of talent evaluators, former big leaguers like yourself, Dmitri, bring up, hey, you see ball, you hit the ball. And then you can trust in your approach. Once you see the ball fly off your bat, right, then you trust yourself and your ability to do that.
Oh, exactly. Because what happens when people struggle at the plate is sometimes it's due to preparation, but it's doubt. You have doubt in your head. And it's like when you feel confident with your swing, when the swing feels good, it's just a matter of getting your timing down with the pitcher and squaring them up. And that's what I like to get the hitters to. So all the doubt and things like that, we iron out in the cage. You know, I said every round, if you swing and miss, pop it up or whatever, I'm not going to say anything. I give them the opportunity to fix it themselves as opposed to every swing or every other swing. Hey, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, because that doesn't give you an opportunity to think for yourself. And so I want you to think for yourself and then be able to correct it. And then after that, we'll talk and I'll have them explain everything to me.
So you need the reps, but you also need the genes. And I think you brought up your brother Delman already. You guys had the baseball genes, man, in your family then with you and Delman. Where did that come from? Delman becomes a major leaguer, plays for the Tigers just like you did. Both first rounders as well. I mean, where did the genes come from, Dmitri and your family? Or just how did that end up happening?
Well, it was the perfect storm, mom and pops. And our mom, you know, rest her soul, was more athletic. My dad was an F-14 pilot. Mom was like 5'9", dad 6'2". So we was definitely gonna have some size on us, and it was just all natural with me. I was always a fast runner, and you know, granted I got bigger and stuff, but I was like, you know, when you get compared to Bo Jackson when you're younger, you know, it was like I was that kind of kid, and but I like eating, I like having a good time and stuff. But but athletic genes, yeah, I guess we both have it. Our sister Deanne, she does too. It skipped our other sister Dietra, but my niece and nephew, her son and daughter, they're athletes in themselves, and look like my nephew's going to be following in me and Delman's footsteps, and my niece is playing basketball in high school.
So, Dmitri, I've had you on long enough probably at this point, but I do want to get to this before I let you go. The season at hand right now that's coming up in late July, a 60-game season mandated by MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. Do you think we'll actually see the season reach a conclusion, have a World Series and crown a champion amid this COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's funny you say that because look what's going on in spring training right now. You know, granted, it's a small number, but it's like, dang, this whole time when people were staying quarantined, nobody got sick. And now everybody's popping up with the doggone COVID and people are opting out of the season. And I mean, you know what? It's a bad thing for the minor leaguers to not have a minor league season. I want to stress that out before I say anything else for all those young minor leaguers that busting their tails to, you know, work to get to the big leagues. And I mean, that was totally taken away from them this year. No spring training. I mean, no season at all, and having to get a job and stuff like that. But as far as the season, I would like to see it conclude 60 games. I actually would like to see more than 60. And then, you know, with this whole pandemic, we don't know if it's going to even happen or not. You know, I mean, keep our fingers crossed that something happens and, you know, wake up and it's gone. But, you know, people got to play it safe, and especially the guys that have families or expecting newborns and stuff. We don't know how this is going to affect newborn in the sense where they might have it forever and they have something that goes on with them. So, I mean, they're totally being cautious and I mean, if that's what they have to do, they do it. My full support. I have nothing bad to say, you know, either way. You know, if you want to play, play. If you want to opt out this year, nobody blames you.
So if you were still playing, what would you do? Play or opt out of playing this season?
My kids. You mean at this present age right here?
Let's say, well, you know what? No, let's say when you were younger actually playing, Dmitri, and let's say a pandemic occurred, unfortunately, when you were in your heyday playing in the majors. Would you have decided to play, you think, or opted out?
Boy, that would have been a tough one because at the time I was still married and I had young kids at the time. And by the time I was with the Tigers, I had a newborn, my daughter. So, yeah, it would have been a pretty easy decision. I would have probably opted out.
And you have to respect everybody's decision right now, like you said, Dmitri. The unfortunate thing is, will the owners of these Major League Baseball clubs use it against these players, right, in future contract negotiations? That's a worrisome factor, I think, for me when looking at these players in their respective situations.
Let's hope that's not the case because I mean this is killing people and can't take it lightly, because those that take it lightly, the next thing you know, they're, and not believing, and then they get it, and then suffer the consequences because of it. So I mean, I'm type 1 diabetic, so I definitely have to watch out. I have my mask, my hand sanitizer, stay away from crowds, 6 feet distance, all that stuff.
Well, you know what? We got to hope and pray for the best. That's all we can do right now, Dmitri. But hey, man, with that being said, stay safe, stay healthy moving forward. My best to you and your family through all this tumultuous times and the pandemic. And for me, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Vito. It's been an absolute pleasure.